This week's episode of The Totally Rad Show is brought to you by Squarespace.
GoDaddy.com.
And Netflix.
Rad Ram. 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 Rad Ram.
Stop it.
Three rad dudes with nothing better to do get abducted by the crew of the Starship Alpha 2. They're from the planet Q, which, due to a space-time loop, is stuck in 82 and must be rescued. They need our heroes to discuss the latest news and give their reviews of games and movies too. Sure hope you're not confused. We swear this is all true, not just the premise too. The Totally Rad Show.
Totally Rad Show, Totally Rad, Totally Rad Show, Totally Rad, Totally Rad Show, Totally Rad, Totally Rad Show, Totally Rad Show.
Hey everybody, welcome to The Totally Rad Show, episode number 84. I'm Marty McFly.
I'm Captain Hammer.
And I'm Anton Sugar. I don't know
Bro,
how to say that.
I love this. Are you kidding me? Well, happy Halloween, everybody.
Happy Halloween.
Like last year, we had to dress up.
Oh, of course.
Prerequisite. So talk us through your costume.
Well, as you can see,
Anton Chigurh.
these lovely locks. Javier Bardem from No Country for Old Men.
Nice. Like it.
And this is what he's wearing in the movie.
Replication?
And this is what his hair is
The hair
styled
makes
like.
it. The hair.
Yeah.
I know. Although your hair kind of makes it too.
Yeah.
Well, a little shorter than Nathan Fillion from
Yes.
Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog character.
Not
but,
too much shorter.
You know, I realized as I was putting this together that 2 years in a row now I've gone as a superhero. This says something about me, I think.
Yes.
My fantasy life.
I like to spread out the wealth. Last year I was a video game guy from Street Fighter. This year, back to the roots.
Yeah, walk
Pretty
us through
epic.
your outfit. What do you got going on?
This I remembered this was in my closet, and I opened it up and I went, I could go as Marty McFly, and then I
I think
did
it was
that.
really cool that you went the extra mile with your costume and actually hit on your mom.
I did. It was great. It was great. And unfortunately, I do need to get to some work because I'm kind of fading out.
You're Calvin.
Yeah.
You're
I am. Steve can make me kind of disappear a little.
So, background is awesome. Very Halloween.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Justin Young from Dallas.
Justin Young from Dallas.
It's actually a carved pumpkin.
Epic.
I mean,
Epic. And
there's
actually
no
gonna be-
photoshopping involved
And we
here.
are going to be carving pumpkins today on the show, ladies and gentlemen. So you will
amazing.
see the artistic prowess. Dan has actually thrown the gauntlet down. Earlier, he was had been overheard saying, "I am the best pumpkin. I can't do it.
Pumpkin farmer.
Pumpkin
I
farmer.
can't do it. I was going to.
I do think I have a rad idea for
what.
what to carve, though, I have to say.
I want to make a pirate.
I want to bring up something, if I may.
You may.
I saw this week the trailer for Friday the 13th. It's Halloween. We're reviewing 2 movies in our Halloween segment. I thought, let's squeeze some other horror stuff in.
Friday the 13th.
I saw the trailer for the,
Like a
the
remake?
remake of Friday the 13th,
Oh, like they did with Halloween.
like they did with Halloween. Or actually, same director, big time commercial guy of Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh, okay.
So you guys should see. Did you see it by any chance?
I haven't.
It looks like you didn't see it. Okay.
I didn't,
It's cool.
no.
I turned a corner in my brain when I saw this trailer. I said, because I was sort of riveted, but I was sort of like, this could be fun.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, you know what? What's wrong with remakes? Is what I thought. What's wrong with remakes? And remakes are particularly a thing in the horror genre, and I realized something. We feel like the first Friday the 13th came out like, oh, they just made that. You can't remake it, they just made it.
But it's not true.
No, let me tell you something. The Fly, we love Cronenberg, The Fly, Jeff
Yeah.
Goldblum. The original 1958 version came out 30 years before the other one. When the fuck did Friday the 13th come out, the original? Like 30 years ago.
Yeah.
It's been 30 years. And then,
Depressing.
and then I thought about, we've literally just been alive long enough for them to remake some of the things that we like, you know what I mean? And I thought about Dracula. Started out as a book, those people screwed up that book and made a movie out of it. And then every 10 years or so,
talking about Nosferatu?
we get a new Dracula incarnation.
Huh.
You know what I mean? And no one complains about remake in the 50s.
So you're saying it's purely a function of time?
Time, yes. And I feel like, I've said this before,
philosophical,
movies are
yeah.
in their infancy. And we've just
Baby
now
movies.
they're 100 years old movies, basically, a little bit more. You know, like, we've now just been alive long enough for that to be the way that the
So let me ask
industry
you this
goes.
question.
Maybe I should go back to the future and see if I
Where
can.
we're going, we don't need remakes.
See if I can flip some coins.
What do you think of the idea of a remake of a video game?
Movie? Oh,
No, a remake of a video game.
That just sounded awesome.
What if somebody
Oh, you mean like
remade-
Bionic Commando?
No, well that's
kind of it.
that's
I
an
mean,
update.
That's an update.
That's
What
like
about-
restoring. No, it's like restoring Casablanca, restoring Wizard of Oz, making it cleaner and or especially.
I disagree. I think it's a remake. It's a total
Why?
retelling.
It's not the same game, same levels, just with a cleaner skin.
Well, there's a,
No.
there's a,
Are you kidding me? It's 3D and
This
you're
persistent
doing-
rumor that has been on the internet for years and years and years that Square Enix would do a remake of Final Fantasy VII on like the PS3, and literally just remake the same game with updated graphics and maybe adding some. And they do a lot of that now, where they like take these games and put them on handhelds.
You
Is
really
there-
gesture strongly with those.
Is
words, I will
there
say.
though? May I suggest? Is there?
Hammered?
Isn't Super Mario Galaxy?
The hammer is my penis.
Let me posit this. Are game sequels the same thing as remake? Like
No. Was a movie sequel the same as a remake?
No, but that's what I'm wondering. I'm just offering. I haven't thought this through, but is there a difference? Like,
Go over in the thinking corner and come back.
Yeah, let's
Come
get
back
into
with
the
a
shot.
statement.
We'll talk about this more later.
Yeah.
I think my hand's gonna fly off.
this week in movies, we're going to be reviewing two. One of them, horror film, per.
I would argue both of them horror films.
Well, interesting. So the first one we're going to talk about that Jeff is referring to is The Changeling, which is the latest and greatest from Clint Eastwood. It happens to be written by J. Michael Straczynski,
Yes.
who many
Babylon
geeks
5.
know of Babylon 5 fame. And
Amazing
also wrote-
Spider-Man for quite a while.
And he wrote, which comic of his did we, Supreme Power was his? So we reviewed in our comic book section. So a notorious comic book, prolific comic book writer
Notable?
and TV show writer. And this could be his first feature. Don't quote me.
I don't think it is.
Okay.
So definitely don't quote him.
There's something.
I don't know what
It's all
it is,
right.
but
Get,
Okay,
let
anyway.
your words
So
go.
The Changeling stars Angelina Jolie as a mother whose son is kidnapped, and when that son is brought back to her, she realizes this is not my son, yet is denied that truth.
takes place in the early.
And it takes place in
Late
the
20s.
the late 20s, early
Like
30s
28.
in Los Angeles. And what'd you think of it, Alex?
Okay.
I was like, did I we say it all?
Yeah, that was
it.
Encapsulated
Yeah.
it. Wow, this movie is a really hard movie to watch. I was leaving this movie, and I actually said to Heather, I said, it's hard for me to review movies like this because there's no point in my life that I am ever in the mood to see a movie like this. And that's just me. I'm never in the mood to see a movie that is so. It's
Brutal?
It is brutal. It's sad. It's frustrating. It's it's so many different things, and it's done very well. Is it the best movie I've ever seen? No. Is it a very good movie? Yes. I personally thought it was a little long. I thought it had about 7 endings, all of which would have been great endings for me. Like, oh, that was good. Whoa, oh, there's more. Yeah. Oh, okay. So that's what happens with that part of the thing. Okay. All right. Well, okay, and that happens to that guy. Okay. Whoa. Oh. I mean.
Yeah.
So to me, it was just a little bit long. I thought the acting was pretty great all around. I don't know if it's. It would be weird to advertise this movie that there's a lot of this in there, but if you're at all uncomfortable with children being in bad situations, avoid it. Heather actually had a couple times where she would have probably left the movie because it really, I mean, the material is very, very, very dark. But overall, I actually thought it was a good movie.
Yeah, I think it is a horror movie, as I said. And I think it's a horror movie where there's a sort of violent villain, and there's also a horrific villain that is corruption. And Clint Eastwood makes good movies. He knows how to make good movies, and his movies are so heartfelt. And I wept several times during this movie. It is very, very powerful. He knows how to get great performances out of his actors. I do agree with you that it did feel like it ended several times, and I thought, this movie could be called Closure instead of
Yes.
Changeling, because basically,
Well, first off,
the reason
Changeling was a horrible title. That
Well-
is a sci-fi alien movie.
Actually, it is a horror film.
No, I know, but I mean that's like what you elicit. But go
Well,
on.
the reason we keep going in this movie is to try to find that is that's the thing that's really moving us forward. I think that the only reason this movie works is because it's a true story. If this was a fictional work, I would call bullshit on it numerous times, which is a commentary on how crazy reality can be. The truth is stranger than fiction. The fact that it's a true story from the start makes you put up with this. You are so flabbergasted that these series of events could have happened.
Yeah.
That is impactful. I liked the movie. I don't think it's as good as some of his other stuff, like
Mystic River,
which I think is a masterpiece.
I think $1 Million Baby and Mystic River. I love Clint Eastwood's recent movies, although I did not like the World War II films. But he's definitely this isn't like Blood Work and whatever. There's
the Space Cowboys.
Yeah, he's a new filmmaker now, and this fits into his newer movies. We never got a chance to talk about $1 Million Baby or Mystic River on the show. And the star of those films and of this movie, for me, is the cinematography. This guy, Tom Stern, shoots a movie the way no other cinematographer shoots a movie. I actually think he's the Frank Miller of cinematographers. There's so much negative, dark space.
Interesting.
It's more in $1 Million Baby, but still here. It's negative, black space. It's gonna sound really cheesy for me to say, but he paints with shadows, which is like the name of a cheesy cinematography book, I'm sure. But it's so true with this guy.
If not, I'm writing it.
Cliche. That being said, I really didn't like the movie.
Oh, really?
It doesn't surprise me at all. I can see how people wouldn't.
I only kind of sort of liked the last 20 minutes.
Wow.
Because it was starting with a prison happenings, because it finally felt to me like people behaving like people.
Right.
For the whole leading up to it, nothing unexpected ever happened, and people spoke the way.
Only because you knew the premise. It's very unexpected if you don't know the premise.
I disagree because of the way that everything is portrayed. It doesn't feel like it's based on human behavior. I've said this a million times, but it bears repeating.
It feels like a caricature of the time.
Like
rather than...
there's moments where characters say things like, Hey Ben, bring her back to the station, and Ben, bring her around back. That's the movie. Never in your life have you ever said, I dare you. Have you ever, if Alex went down to the car, would you ever go, and Alex, come back with this, or whatever? You would never go, and Alex. That is a movie
Sure
like,
you do.
I would.
No, I know you mean. He'd be like, hey, go get something.
Yeah.
Alex, get something.
Oh shit, Alex.
Dan, grab something out of
Alex.
the car.
Dan, whatever.
And
yeah.
I'd be like,
You're
and
saying
also,
you're saying it doesn't seem like he just thought of that second part now.
It's-
He always knew he was going to say the second
Well,
part,
no.
but he's phrased it in a way that
It's that pentameter or rhythm of speech is the way people speak in older films, which may have been a choice, but it's the way people speak in movies, not in life. But to me, at the end, people behaved and spoke the way interesting people would behave, and things are happening.
yeah,
as
like if you
opposed
were
to
at a
just-
cocktail party and people were yelling.
No, but there was actually human behavior going on. I did not see any of that portrayed at all in the beginning. Three-quarters
I find
of
that
the
to be a
movie.
very odd criticism for this movie because I didn't see that at all, and I don't. It doesn't resonate with me as being something that now that you bring it up, I look back and go, oh yes.
I can see it because it definitely
felt so cliche
Well,
to
but
me.
it was a
Everyone's
melodrama. I mean,
performance-
the movie itself
Right.
was a melodrama.
Right.
So of course there's going to be that over-the-top melodramatic, I mean, but first off, I was sort of surprised at how well Angelina Jolie was in this movie because I was kind of a little nervous that.
Yeah, she was better than everyone else, but I don't know.
Well, I don't know if I agree with that, but
Yeah.
anyway.
Okay, so the next one is a big deal movie. It's like,
Really?
remember we talked about The Orphanage last year as this horror film that was getting all these great reviews at film festivals, and we saw
And
it
by
before.
us.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you haven't seen The Orphanage, rent it
Oh
immediately.
God, on Blu-ray,
Absolutely.
scare the poop out of you.
Perfect Halloween watching.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it's out on Blu-ray. That's
Yeah.
right.
If you speak Spanish, even better. Because it's in Spanish.
Anyway, well, this year's The Orphanage is a movie called Let the Right One In, which everyone is raving about. It's only out in limited release, but we got a chance to go see it today.
At Lamb
And
Sunset 5.
It's essentially it's a Swedish film directed by Thomas Adolfsson.
Is he related to the Nyords in the movie? Sorry, keep going.
Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't.
I know. I just was giggling at the beginning
And
of the movie. during the credits.
essentially, it's a coming-of-age tale about a young, sort of
Swedish boy.
pubescent teen, misfit outcast who meets another outcast girl and forms a relationship. And this girl turns out to be a vampire. So, what did you think of this special horror film, Jeffrey?
It's very difficult these days, I think, to plumb new ground in these.
Vampires.
I would say
these-
plumbing in general is pretty difficult.
to find a new take on these classic monster concepts, you know.
Right, it's kind of like what I was talking about in the Top Talk.
Yeah,
Yes,
right.
exactly.
It fits right into exactly what you said.
And you know, this movie is almost Teen Wolf with vampires if it had really been a fucking werewolf. You know?
Right.
Not a happy fun time werewolf. Real werewolf.
Interesting.
Right? So this is that idea. I found the movie to be really slow and hard to watch at the beginning. Every single take, every single shot, every single scene lasts a little bit longer than it needed to. But the whole experience was worth it for the end. Not gonna say what the end was, but the entire experience of watching the movie for me was worth it for the end. Not a movie that I'll recommend you seek out because this is a film you need to seek out. I don't think it's that worthwhile. There's some really great stuff and some really clever ideas. I just don't think the execution was as tight enough as I would have liked. I literally fought falling asleep a little bit during the beginning, but the end brings it home.
Okay. Well, I liked it way more than that. It is all of those things. However, for me, I was sort of, I knew going in, this is an art house movie. This is a movie that's going to take its time to build its characters. And for me, the thing that really blew my mind was halfway through, I realized you could see this movie and she wasn't a vampire, and it was still a really good movie. Like, that relationship was something I was excited to explore, and the fact that she was a vampire was just this issue that they had to deal with. You know what I mean?
I agree with you completely.
And to me, that was what, like, halfway through, I was like, this is just like a really sweet, warm story between two kids who are kind of trying to figure out what it means to like someone. You know what I mean? And she's a vampire.
Right.
A horror film, I think it's the wrong. This is not The Orphanage as far as a horror film goes.
Oh, it's not
very
scary.
scary.
It's not scary at all.
It's not very scary. It's sort of like, I think it's probably been put in that box, and I have a feeling people may be disappointed when it gets compared to things like The Orphanage to go in and being like, well, it wasn't all that scary.
That's me. You know, that's
But
me saying
I enjoyed the movie a lot.
I compared The Orphanage not because it's as scary as The Orphanage. No, I compared it in terms of there was a lot of hype surrounding The Orphanage.
Yes,
a small thing, and that's
Yeah.
okay. I didn't think the movie was good. I thought it was great, but I did not think it was super great or brilliant. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just thought it was a pretty great movie. and I thought you were gonna say it's far superior to True Blood.
Oh, it is. And let me just really quickly touch on that because I did think it is far superior to True Blood, and the reason is there's this great pedestrianness to it. It doesn't. It's the inner workings of being a vampire brought down to a very
Batman
pedestrian level.
For vampires.
No, I don't even think it's that. It's like
I have a better word.
the sort of mundane. Day-to-day necessities of what it would be to be a vampire, and that's what True Blood should have been.
Yeah, I actually agree with you on that.
What else did you think?
This movie is Gus Van Sant's Vampire. Like we had John Carpenter's Vampire, however we go. This is literally, of Gus Van Sant's later couple movies, this is his version of a vampire story.
Right.
But it had nothing to do with this movie, right?
No.
Let's be clear about that.
I'm just saying, it's also kind of like an evil E.T. in many ways. Allegory, divorce, meets an outcast from another place and forms relationship.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Only ends more negatively than positively, but.
Well,
no, but
let's not talk about the end.
Then E.T.
all right.
So, that being said, it's a movie. I agree with what you're saying that it's a slow burn. I enjoy that slow burn because it's not like the cool parts in the movie. You couldn't just watch on YouTube like you could like a Jackie Chan fight scene, where you know what I mean. Like those cool parts aren't cool on their own. They're only cool because of the time you've spent with these people. And I think it's a great. Actually, I kind of liked more the beginning. I kind of liked more the relationship movie. I didn't need that stuff, but like you said, you're right. But that adds so much such a cool layer.
Thing, yeah. And the kids, all of the kids, even the like little kids that were peeing, and everybody was
great.
so great,
absolutely.
so great.
Now here's the other thing that I didn't mention up front, which I should have. Hollywood is remaking this movie.
I suspect that they might.
The director that's remaking it is a man named.
Not the director who made the movie.
Is it Gus Van Sant?
That's better.
I know it's better.
That's funny. Matt Reeves, who did The Pallbearer, one of my favorite movies, and Cloverfield.
Oh God.
So what do you guys think of you loved Cloverfield?
What? Did I?
Yeah.
I might have, but that hasn't lived well in my memory. Let's just put it that way.
You're remembering how you felt before you saw the movie.
I may be remembering how I've now become feeling clips of the movie.
I want to hear what you think.
I want to see my review
Seriously.
of Cloverfield because I don't remember liking it.
Yeah, you did.
Maybe you should download it.
I will. I'm going to actually watch it.
I liked it the least. You guys loved Cloverfield and I didn't like it. Here's what I think.
Steve, is that true?
Based mainly, I think this is really cool because while I did think the slow burnness of Let the Right One In is awesome, I also think this kind of story could be told more traditionally and
will be
just as exciting in a different way.
Yeah.
It won't be about the characters, and it could have more of the cool vampire-y, exciting moments that this movie didn't have that many of. It had some of them, but not that many of. But The Pallbearer is a coming of age. It's coming of age when you're 30 years old, but it still has awkward people meeting each other and those really tender moments, but it doesn't need the slow burn that this movie needed. So I feel like with the director that has that, and obviously has the suspense filmmaking chops that we saw in Cloverfield, even though I didn't love it, and I'm excited to see him make a movie that isn't so experimental as Cloverfield. I think this could be an as good flick.
Cool.
What do you
We'll see.
think of that?
I see that happening. I suspect it will be a lot tighter, and maybe I'll like that more. I also will make a wildly unfounded prediction that the kids will be older in the American version than they are
Yeah, they'll
here.
be 20s or maybe high school.
There is something that is very off-putting about this film, where there's this tinge of sexuality for these 12-year-olds.
Yeah.
But that's
I think that is
12. That is 12.
Yeah, no doubt.
That is hair's growing in places and
Or mouths.
you're figuring things out and
All right, we are here.
I took my gloves
We
off.
have pumpkins. Now, Dan, you have not actually carved a pumpkin in many aeons.
I was in kindergarten the last time I carved a
There's
pumpkin.
been a lot of harvest moons since then.
It's almost a Dan becomes a man.
I think I haven't carved a pumpkin since
Almost.
the last Friday the 13th was out, so it's time to do it again.
Oh, good.
I can't take you seriously with that hair. I'm sorry.
Funny, I would say the same about you.
So, first things first, Dan.
TV.
Yes, but
The
also
top
Dan.
is very important.
The top is key.
All right.
Some rookie mistakes people make on the top is they just go straight around, and what happens is the top can't sit back in it. So what you got to do is you got to go in a little bit sideways, because then the top will sit back on top of the pumpkin.
I'm making the incision. Doctor. Doctor.
Okay.
Doctor.
Doctor?
I should have concurred.
Damn it. I don't concur. I disconcur.
Oh.
Jeff is making some interesting knife choices, I'm not gonna lie.
I'll tell you what I
You
like.
like this-
Do you like
Swore
a
it.
wide mouth?
No, I like to make a design with the top, not just do a circle.
Oh, good.
I like to make a design.
That's
You know
what
why?
happens.
I'll tell you why.
Please.
You know what's difficult? I don't know if you've run into this problem. Maybe you have. Perhaps you have.
No.
Is that if it's a circle and you don't know how you want it to sit flush, and you don't know exactly where the circle sits. But if it's got notches and wedges and shit, there's only one. It's like a key. It locks back in place.
Yeah. Whoa, first off, that's stabbing towards your kidney.
Yeah, careful.
Like this.
Away from self. I'm just gonna tell you right now, with this knife, I'm not gonna get a lot of detail work on my face.
So this is part of the... So now you're gonna have to get under there and cut off. Look at that, huh?
I don't know if I'm
This
going
is
straight or on an
Halloween,
angle or what am I
Halloween.
doing. I don't know what to do. Just make a little star. Here, let me make a star so it's like Jeff's.
Hello, look at that.
Nice work.
That is nice, right? This is the best part, by the way, when you get to
I know.
stick your hands in, you get to pull
That doesn't
out.
sound
I do a
fun to
good
me.
first... do a nice first scrape.
Steve has to giggle.
Now what do? Reach in there.
Reach in there, baby.
Ew.
Really?
Gross.
It's fun.
I don't like it.
This is the most fun part.
Hey, you're like, I don't like getting my hands dirty. I'm not a real dude. Not a real man's man, as we've established.
Your words, not mine.
Now, why are you guys using a spoon?
Because it has
You need to
scraping.
scrape the
it has scraping.
edges.
It adds +1 to scraping.
Huh?
How is it? Let me see. Let me check her out. Pretty good. Pretty good.
I need to find this pumpkin soul.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that, of letting the pumpkin dictate to me what it wants to be.
Yeah,
Usually mine all want to be the same thing, though.
pumpkin.
All right, here we go. I'm ready
To believe
for
you.
the stage.
I think that if we get through this entire thing without anybody slicing themselves open, it's a win.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to display my pumpkin,
You're done?
though I am done.
Jesus.
I'm not going to
still.
display it because I would like the full reveal. Oh, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm baking because I don't know why these guys took so long, but I'm going to go ahead and bake
Should it care? Maybe.
the seeds. They taste a lot like sesame seeds.
Sunflower seeds.
Sunflower seeds, sorry, but you don't have to actually peel them. This is definitely something that's fun to do when you're a kid and when you're an adult because it's really like throaty. And once you get the weird ickiness out.
That is a badass motherfucking pumpkin, bro.
Okay, so Steve is gonna go ahead and take all the pumpkins, which we have not seen each other's pumpkin, put them out on his front porch, light them all, turn off all the lights, and then we're gonna go outside and he's gonna videotape us coming outside and then seeing each other's pumpkins.
It's gonna be very dark on us.
Okay, here we go.
Big reveal. Don't kick him.
You're gonna step on it.
I see them. They're very clearly pumpkins that are glowing.
1, 2, 3, turn.
Oh, dude.
You made the Triforce?
I'm gonna try first.
Oh, you made the Triforce.
Wait, what is the one all the way on the right? The scar face?
That's Scarface, yeah.
Nice, dude.
It's like a big eye,
Okay.
like a little thing, a big scar done thing, a nose and a
My
mouth.
mistake was that you can see the flame too much.
I like yours though. It looks like, is it like a Cyclops?
Yeah.
Well, good work, guys.
Thanks, dude.
Captain Hammer, love the gloves.
Marty.
That's not Marty, that's Friendo.
Friendo.
The video game we've been playing this week is Fable II, and we are in the thick of it now, folks. We are in the fall mad rush of video games. So there's going to be lots of video games we're going to try to cover in the next few weeks. This
We
week's
actually got to
game,
stay with Little Big Planet getting pushed. Because otherwise it would have been like that and Fable 2, bang, bang.
well, now we got Fallout 3 happening the same day. It's going to be a whole. We're
got
going
a
to
lot
try
of
to
bang
cover
bangs.
as much as we possibly can.
Yeah.
But let's dive right into Fable 2. Fable 2 is the sequel to the Xbox exclusive Fable, which is Peter Molyneux and Lionhead Studios' role-playing game. Very ambitious role-playing game where you basically can create the character and live the life you want to live while saving the universe. You can do all kinds of stuff like get married, have kids, buy property. That's all the world that exists around the main quest of saving the world. This game takes place 200 years after the first Fable, so there's new technology. There's guns in this one, for example.
And set in like a medieval type world. Did you say that? Was I
Yeah, fantasy. Yeah. So there's a lot.
catch.
We've been talking about this a lot over the last year as it's been getting closer to release. We talked about the dog aspect, which is a major feature. Molyneux outlined 3 major features, which we'll get into in our review. But I'm interested to hear, Dan, what you thought of playing the game. It's Xbox 360 exclusive. This is where we played it.
Now you talk about
Well, I think you could call this game Grand Theft Albion. I'm gonna compare it a lot to Grand Theft Auto because that was a similar game that I know. I loved Grand Theft Auto, the new one.
4.
4. Wait, what's the subtitle? Grand Theft Auto.
4.
Just 4? No, where is it?
It's 4.
Okay.
It's in Liberty City, right? But it's
Liberty City.
there's no subtitle.
I know there's no subtitle, right? Okay, sorry. Sidetrack. I also think Fable 2 is a great game. It's not good. It's not brilliant. I thought it could be brilliant. I thought it was going to be brilliant. On the whole, I didn't have as much fun playing it. I was captivated and compelled throughout the many hours I was playing it. I was never bored.
You
but
haven't finished the game,
But
right?
I just wasn't fun. I had not finished the game. I think I'm in the last neck of main primary quests.
Yes, right.
I'm in Bloodstone. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. All right. Here's what I liked. I liked that what I've said a million times about there's a moment in the game about midway through where in the Spire where things change, and I like in games when things start in one place and they end up in somewhere completely different. But what this game does that only a handful of games do, and I think this is greatness, is when a game makes you, the person, feel the way the character feels.
Right.
And there's a transcendent moment in this game where that happens, and that is amazing. The dog stuff, very cool. Not amazing. We always have had AI helping us in games.
Right.
Every World War II game you played, everything. But there's something about a dog that's a little bit more than that, because a dog is vulnerable. You know what I mean? It's a helpless animal. It gets sad.
you didn't get the armor for the dog. No, I'm just kidding.
I was like, what?
It's a downloadable
Downloadable.
content.
That being
Costs you $12.
That all being said, there are some negatives. There was a moment in the game where it was raining, and I went into a like gypsy house type deal, and it was raining inside the gypsy house. Not like it was dribbling, like it was still raining. There's a wonderful moment that happened for me when playing Grand Theft Auto, when it was raining, and I drove underneath a bridge, and it was like wisps underneath the bridge. It actually factored that in. Details like that, immersion. And this is a game where that is key. That is king.
Okay.
The dog, when the dog like jumps, the dog sometimes like it doesn't
Pathfinding is problematic.
it doesn't have the animation that, like, when you're playing Call of Duty 4 and the guy clips the fence and he falls down or whatever. The dog doesn't have those moments, and characters throughout the game, because there's so much I assume because there's so much processing and everything going on, it's a little glitchy. I felt like Steve was talking about playing a game on a PC and how like it crashed on him, and we were talking about that feeling of when you play a game on a PC, how you're always a little bit like something could happen at any time. You might not be seeing this part as good graphics because your machine. I felt that way playing this console game. I felt like,
But nothing ever crashed or anything.
no, well, there were weird poppings of like just overall the graphics of certain things weren't so great. You know,
What did you think?
Wow. Well, that was very detailed, but good detail.
We're not reviewing his review. We're reviewing
Oh, okay.
the game.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I was confused for a second. I really enjoyed this game more than I thought I would. Offline RPGs are not sort of my thing because I always find them hard to get into the story. Like for some reason, there's like this. It's very early on. I'm never into what's happening, and I think I figured out what it was. And one of the things that you guys hadn't touched on, which is one of the things that I actually really liked about the game, was the breadcrumbs.
Right.
Because for me in RPGs, I'm always spending more brain processing time figuring out where the F I'm supposed to go, and less about what's happening.
So let's explain that for a second. Yeah. So one of the things Peter Molyneux has gone on record in saying he hates about most role-playing games is that it has this little mini map up in the corner, and that tells you where you are and where you need to go. And he says most people they spend all this time making this great graphics engine, and everybody spends all their time staring up at this little 2D terrible thing. And he wants people to look at the game. So his solution was to create a little glowing strip, which he calls the breadcrumbs, that tells you where leads you to your next destination
For whatever quest that you're currently on.
Select
and you can
which
select,
quest, yeah.
and you can turn it off.
Right.
So that's a big deal because some people I know were like, "This is stupid. You're taking the thinking out of the game."
Right.
For me, it did exactly what it was supposed to do, which was all I was focusing my energies on was what am I doing, why am I doing it, and let's do that.
Right.
Whereas before, the majority of my brain was, okay, wait. I'm supposed to go to this city. I don't care why. I don't care what I'm supposed to do because I have no idea where that city is. Now I got to go back and figure out blah, blah, blah.
And there's
So that
lots
was
to
very
do
good.
if you wander off the paths.
And I did.
Yeah.
I made a very good point of anytime I saw a path. And the other thing was because I knew I wasn't going to get lost.
Right.
I knew exactly where I'm supposed to be going. You know what I mean? So that was very, very good.
I think if Peter's listening to this, he's going to be very, very happy.
I
It's
hope
exactly
he is.
what he
I
probably
hope he
wanted.
is because it made the process of playing this game so much more fun for me because I got to experience. I was really engulfed in the story. The combat stuff was really fun. I am the kind of guy who likes to shoot things from afar. End of story.
Right.
In almost any game that I play, I'm always the rifleman, the ranger,
Sniper.
the sniper. That is me to a T. And I can go into some roguey stuff every once in a while, but it's a departure from what I like. So the fact that you can specifically level up the sort of skill trees and be very, very proficient with a crossbow, which to me was the bee's knees, was very, very cool.
It was interesting. We had lunch before we shot, and we all got into a discussion of how did you play? How did you play? And we all had very, very different styles of play.
I learned things that I'm now going to go back and apply, like Raising the Dead, which I'm very excited about. So that the story, I loved it. The graphics were great. There were a few glitches, which is I forgave them a lot of that. Few things that I disliked. The co-op online play was atrocious.
Yes. Right.
The camera
Worthless.
was worthless.
It turns off the camera when you, for some unknown reason.
No, it turns off the function of moving the camera.
Right. Well, it turns
so
off.
frustrating.
It basically locks the camera in one position, and the only way you can change it is hitting a bumper, and it'll realign the main character's view.
Yeah, it
becomes completely
worthless.
unplayable almost.
The other thing is when I first started playing the game, there was a friend of mine who's on my friends list who has this little icon of like a Galaga plane. And I saw this thing, and it was right where I had just been. And so I was like, that is a really weirdly not consistent save point.
You thought the orb.
Because it was just sitting there.
When
And I was
anybody
like,
on your friends list who's playing, they'll show a real-time orb of them moving around, and it'll use their gamer picture.
So the only way that I could actually enjoy this, turn all of that stuff off. And I was like, unplugged myself from Xbox Live.
Interesting.
The good news is I was having a really bad internet connection problems that I'm fixing on Tuesday. So by the time this gets out, I'm gonna have FiOS. Which I'm very excited. So it actually was not functioning, which is why I'm not connected to the internet right now. But to me, that was atrocious. Secondly, the dog does nothing. The dog does not attack people. The dog does
Attacks
not.
them if they're knocked on the ground.
Yeah, well, when you have a master repeating crossbow, they don't ever make it to the ground. So the dog literally just like growls, and I'm like, oh, people, chink. All right, let's go.
Treasure hunting.
So that stuff was great, but then to me, I remember all this Peter Molyneux talking about how the dog is going to be this big, blah, 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 and I go, really all it is a little thing that goes, bing, hey, there's treasure over here, and I go, oh, thanks, dog. And I have to I go into a cave, and I'm like, bro, the S is sitting in the F, get your tail out from under you.
But like breadcrumbs to mini maps, the dog's saying there's people there, and dog alerting you to treasure, as opposed to a map, an arrow going, oh, there's treasure over there. Is way cooler.
I guess I thought it was going to be implemented more like the pets in WoW, where they would go and actually do damage, and you could buff them.
The hype that Molyneux,
because I love that about the dog,
said, all this time was, you are going to feel love.
Right.
I definitely got that.
And
definitely got.
You felt love?
I felt love.
I did not.
Yeah, I felt love.
Well,
from
what did you
things,
think? So for me, loved the game. I thought it was great.
I think it's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful game, and it's one of those games, all too rare in my experience, where when I'm not playing it, I'm thinking about playing it.
Yeah.
I have some serious gripes. One of which is the interface, the menu system is ridiculous. It is complete. It's almost you have this this master designer like Molyneux, and he allows this completely bass-ackwards menu system.
You have to pause the game to bring up a pause screen. It wasn't like a Ratchet and Clank or something where if you need to get...
There's an empty button that's not used. The left bumper button is not used. Why not bring up so I can take
potion stuff, yes.
Inventory.
You have to pause it, take an item,
it's even worse
and then
when
pause
you buy,
it again,
and you buy multiple potions. It takes you an hour to take them.
Yes.
It's ridiculous. Yes. Okay, so that's a big deal. But those things come into play, and it's like, well, I'm willing to put up with that because the experience of playing the game is so great.
Yes.
The three main sort of great features that Molyneux kept talking about, which is one, the dog, which we all agree didn't live up to what we had hoped for. It's a neat thing.
It's fun. It's great.
But it's not.
Heather loved it.
Yeah,
she's like, oh,
it's cool.
it looks like
the co-op, I completely agree, is a abysmal failure.
Worthless.
The one thing that I wanted out of co-op is you have this game where it's all about making choices and creating a unique identity for your character. A unique look. You can have all these awesome options to make clothing and dye it colors and really create a unique looking character. And when I hop into somebody else's game, they don't get to see my character. I assume the identity of this stock sidekick character. It's a complete fail.
Yeah, that's a fail. I didn't even know that.
The third big feature he talked about was the combat. And I think simplifying it, but leaving depth to be found. And I think that is an incredible success. Which is ironic because going into this game, I thought that was the one thing where I was like, really, one button combat? It's gonna be so. The combat in this game is really, really fun.
Yeah.
Really fun. And there's depth to be found. You can level things up. Really great. Another thing I need to talk about is the story. I think that this game succeeds on a level. First of all, there's humor. This is like this kind of Monty Python little bit of humor thrown in. The voice acting is spectacular across the board. But even more than that, we have the genre of like Japanese role-playing games, and the contrivance of those games is that you create a party and you take this party around and you do things, and there's different characters in the party, but basically you're just kind of swapping them in and out. In this game, you actually assemble a party, and when you get a new member of your party, it feels like they have a whole personality. They're a unique person. They add to what you're able to do in unique and interesting ways. And the process of the game, the mainline story of the game, is assembling this party, and it feels awesome when you do it. Also, the idea of choice, which a lot of this game is built around good versus evil, pure versus corrupt.
Yeah.
One of the things Molyneux talked about a lot with the first Fable is how something like 97% of the people who played it ended up being good.
Right.
Because the game itself sort of pushed you to be good, even if you wanted to play evil.
Yeah.
This time, it's really hard to be good. Really, you make some excruciating choices to stay good. And there's like the Stanford prison experiment is in this game. And playing that was one of the most incredible experiences in a game I can tell you. And there's a choice at the very end of this game too that is difficult to make, and those kinds of things in games I find to be so interesting and fun to play through. I highly recommend it, even if it's got some flaws. There's so much to do. The actual, I think, main story is relatively short, but there's so much to do and so many ways to take it. But it's really great.
I still feel like that actually specific aspect to just the story and the characters, that's where I felt less than, that in another area I felt very much less than Grand Theft Auto. In that,
really?
It's funny that, because like, and also like your wife and your kid and all that stuff's great, but none of those people all said sort of stock repetitive things, and you think that, and they were funny at first, which is an achievement, but then I realized, wow, them trying to make so many characters interact with me was a disservice, because it pulled me out of the story, because they were so video game. They were.
Yeah, it was like
they congregate around you.
It's like The Sims at that point.
It's such a trigger as opposed to a living, breathing character.
Right.
Whereas in Grand Theft Auto, those characters all felt such living and breathing. And it's funny that I identified more with a Russian gangster that I have nothing in common with. He felt more human to me than a guy I could customize myself. It's odd that took place, but it was storytelling. It's just the power of storytelling to me, that experience didn't trump good storytelling to make me connect with the character. There were transcendent moments in this game that were beyond belief.
Yeah.
And I also want to say this game has a lot of cave dwelling, which I don't like. And
not that much.
I felt like everything I did was another little cave that I wanted to. The town where I want missions to be happening in that place, in the house that I lived in.
There's lots of stuff. I mean,
the ones that I encountered were all felt like I was instanced into something.
Another great thing is that the side quests in this game are meaty and interesting
fun.
and written, and there's like other games, looking at you, Mass Effect, where side quests are just they're nothing.
They're
this
moon
game,
patrol.
So that's the side quest is where I thought GTA succeeded.
Let's really quickly talk about Talk about the big announcement this week, which is finally we hear about what BioWare and LucasArts have been doing in collaboration, which is a new Star Wars MMO. It's called Star Wars Old Republic, and it takes place in the sort of KOTOR, Knights of the Old Republic era of Star Wars, which is like thousands of years before the movies that we saw. This is BioWare, the guys who did the Mass Effect I just mentioned, and KOTOR, and really, Baldur's Gate, and lots of very well-respected RPGs. So they're making an MMO. It's got the full backing of LucasArts. We don't have any video yet. We have some screenshots.
Concept art.
We have screenshots too. There's screenshots.
Oh,
There's
yeah. There's like locations or whatever.
Yeah. You are on record many times as being a big Star Wars Galaxies fan.
Star Wars Galaxies is the first MMO I ever played.
Yep.
Got me hooked.
So, are you excited about this?
Well, yeah. I mean, yes.
Is this what you would have wanted? I mean, tell me what you think.
No.
Is this a WoW killer for you? Is this
No. Here's the problem that I have, and this is something that will probably be addressed or not changed, but will be addressed by how I loved KOTOR. Loved KOTOR. But I was one of a very few number of Jedi. One of the problems that happened with Star Wars Galaxies was that they allowed people to start Jedis as a starting player.
Yeah, which it looks like this is exactly going to be.
That's my biggest concern. Because I think the thing that people don't believe in the Star Wars canon is that all the other professions, all the other characters in Star Wars, there's 1, 2, 3 Jedis. The other characters.
But maybe the time frame that we're looking at explains that.
And that explaining it doesn't alleviate the problem, which is it's just going to be a bunch of Jedis running around Jedi fighting things.
Well, what's the difference between a bunch of Jedis and a bunch of, say, superheroes like City of Heroes, or a bunch of magic users in WoW, or a bunch of anybody that can do really cool things?
Well, there are always those people, because of the fact that Jedis have been in the movies, the one thing that is transcendent over all the other people who are also cool. And I bring a lot of baggage from Star Wars Galaxies, which is when it took years to become a Jedi in Star Wars Galaxies, when you saw a Jedi, it was a thing. It was
Right.
a visceral, emotional response from your childhood.
But you know, one of the reasons I didn't play Galaxies is because I heard of all that and I was like, well, I want to be a Jedi, but there's no way I want to do that.
That's exactly why they put Jedi into Star Wars Galaxies. That's exactly
Took
why
out the good
KOTOR
suck.
is. They took out the good suck because they would rather have you paying $15 and
Well, yeah.
running around with
Then
all
go
the
out
other
of
people
business.
than have me not paying my $15. Because I
Yeah.
think there are more people like you than there are people like me, and that makes me sad. And so that's my
What
only
kind of person
worry.
are you, Dan?
A good one.
Are you excited about this?
The only kind of MMOs that I'm excited about are ones that are set in a non-fantasy, a non-medievalish fantasy universe,
Check.
and or one that's coming out on a console.
We don't know that for sure,
Yeah.
but I would be shocked if it
Dis
isn't.
check.
Oh, you think it will?
They haven't announced anything,
Well,
but I would
that's
be
exciting.
shocked if it isn't. I would be
the
shocked.
funny thing,
Oh, that's
though, is that
interesting. I don't think I
my
like
life
that,
is a
but-
series of peaks and valleys with Star Wars. I go through many periods of like, I'm so over it. Like,
Is that where you are
how
now?
many times? I'm kind of there now. Or I'm like, this is why I love Star Wars. That
Yeah.
music comes on. I'm like, this is why Star Wars is on. You know. So right now I'm in a valley. What is the deal with this game that makes it so? You know, why isn't it Galaxies or?
we don't know a lot of details now, but the thing that they're talking
Why
about
should I be excited?
is that they're introducing the element of story.
Yeah,
That story
big
is
time.
king. And that, you know, if coming from BioWare, that's a very potent thing for them to bring to the table
Yeah.
because they have done in the past. So they're saying each class is going to have its own story. There's going to be an overarching story that everyone participates in, that they're really making it a priority to have, you know, not just what you talked about just a moment ago of like
Yeah.
getting the quest. What do I need to go? Just tell me where I need to go and what I
Right.
need to get. You know,
Right.
get me 10 of these rats or whatever.
Right.
That it's really is built around telling a story, and that to me is very
That's
exciting.
big because that could change MMO.
That's what I loved about Age of Conan. You know, the first 10 levels of Age of Conan are this really cool story that you're participating in, and I loved that.
Now, can I just bring everything full circle and say that I wished with all my being that Fable 2 was an MMO, and had it been, all the problems I listed wouldn't be problems.
Yeah.
Because the things that I didn't like about Fable 2 were like, it felt like MMO, like it felt those glitches, that unpolishedness.
You could forgive it if there were
If it was
100
an
people
MMO,
running
yeah,
around with you.
exactly.
And you're like, I get it. That takes a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
It's awesome. So before we get to our email, we do want to thank our sponsors. Squarespace.com is unbelievable web hosting. If you have a website and you want to get it hosted, Squarespace.com is your one-stop shop for it. They house all your stuff, serve all your stuff. The bandwidth stuff is all taken care of. Monthly fees. But with those monthly fees, you get probably the best WYSIWYG editor I've ever used. They've redone almost all of our websites.
Yeah.
DanTrachtenberg.com, AlexAlberg.com, soon to be JeffCanada.com.
They also did my improv
They did the
group,
Returning Champs,
ReturningChamps.com.
your improv troupe. They did my girlfriend's new web show, firstThingsFirst.tv.
And it's like they're so easy. You can just hop right in and edit the
It's
one
amazing.
thing really quickly.
It's amazing. They have a bunch of cool templates.
Honestly,
it's all great.
I mean, I hate to harp on this a lot, but I used to use the Yahoo. I did it through
Yep.
Yahoo, and I used their stuff to
WYSIWYG
make.
editor.
Yes, not easy.
No.
Squarespace, much easier.
Agreed. And not only that, if you sign up for your account at Squarespace with the code TRS, you actually get 10% off the entire life of your website. Go check them out, squarespace.com.
Also, if you're gonna have a website, you need a domain name, so you might as well get your domain name from GoDaddy.com. Why? Because they are the best at it. That's where I got my domains. That's where these guys get their domains. And also Laughs. Laughs
Where I
come
get.
hot and heavy from the... Anyway, GoDaddy.com, seriously, they supported our show for a long time. They're great. When I bought my domain, I bought JeffCanada.com from them. They called me afterwards and made sure that everything went fine. Not only that, I actually got an email from somebody who said, hey, Jeff, did you know that I can look at all your personal information because you bought a domain from GoDaddy.com? And I went, really? So what I did was I went to GoDaddy.com and I did a little check mark for privatize all of this.
I did that
No longer
many
is my
years
personal
ago.
information on the web. GoDaddy.com makes it so easy.
Check out the cache of all that stuff if you
Also-
want his phone number.
And when I did that, I used TRS1 to check out and I got 10% off my order.
Beautiful.
Just like you
Excellent.
can.
Netflix.
Look at the cash of that, please.
Netflix is sponsoring us once again.
shouldn't have told
And we love Netflix. You'll love Netflix if you sign up. It's, of course, online renting. They have what, are whispers happening?
No,
or
it's gone. We're good.
sponsors?
I'm regretting everything I said.
So Netflix has over 100,000 titles, including all the Blu-ray titles. On Blu-ray, we recommend highly for Halloween, The Orphanage.
Yes.
Correct.
The best horror film, one of the best horror films ever made. Definitely the best of the last 5 years.
Oh, yeah.
I also recommend watching Netflix movies instead of stalking people at their house.
Sure, it's a good recommendation. Although, go crazy. Whatever.
I'm also going to throw
We're
out
not one
there,
to tell you what to do.
once again, The Paul Bear. Rent The Paul Bear, you will be happy. Funny,
No Country
funny,
for
good
Old
stuff.
Men.
No Country for Old Men. Back to the Future.
Back to the Future.
And go to
Not-
iTunes and
not
buy Dr. Harple Sing Along Blog. Okay, so they have basically like 40 shipping centers around the country.
Yeah, basically.
So when you put a movie at the top of your queue, you're gonna get it practically the next day. Many times it does come the next day, I know from experience. Plans start as low as $4.99. You get a 2-week risk-free trial.
Yep.
If you go over to www, you got to put them in, .netflix.com/TRS.
Does Netflix have a phone number? So you could tell people to call it.
All right, let's get to that email, shall we?
Call it. No?
Hey guys, my name is Jonathan Maxwell from Huntington, West
Hey.
Virginia.
Friendo.
I love it.
Relax.
All right,
I'm
let's-
24 years old and I'm finally about to finish college. I love the show and I have a question for you. Over the years, let it happen. Over the years, I've always tried to make a costume that wasn't something you'd see everywhere. In high school, my friends and I dressed up as Wayne's World. I'm sure they mean Wayne and Garth. And it went over really well. Last year, I tried a few last year I had a few friends that got together and dressed up as Street Fighter characters.
Look at that picture. Isn't that awesome?
I've attached,
It's amazing.
I'll have to check that out later.
But Alex was a better guy.
I was
though.
reading. Thank you. I've attached a picture
If he's in
with
that
us.
picture.
So with that, what's the best Halloween costume that you've personally wore over the years and a good story to go along with it? And I just figured out mine right now. Thanks and keep up the good work, Jonathan. This is a big question. We've talked about a few of our costumes.
Yeah, but it's always fun to hit back on it every Halloween, talk about Halloween.
So Jeff, what was one of your
I was very proud a few years ago. I went as Yanni. I was very proud of that with the mustache and the long hair and the vest that had musical instruments on it. But when I think of great Halloween costumes, I always think back to my childhood. And you may have seen, if you've watched our show and seen our Raised on Rad segments, we have an intro. And in that intro, I'm featured a picture of me as a little kid in my Pac-Man costume. And for me, nothing compares, and never will, to the glory of the Pac-Man costume because my dad actually built it from scratch. Like, it was the most awesome, like, structurally sound cardboard. The whole thing was cardboard. It fit over my head. I put my arms out through it, and I was Pac-Man.
Yeah.
No other kid had that. It was like when Pac-Man was at the height of his popularity. I was so into Pac-Man, and
Pac-Man was doing a
because
lot
it
of
was
cocaine hookers.
built for me, no other kid in the neighborhood had it. No other kid I ever
Love it.
saw had
Did you
it.
fit through doorways?
And I had awesome like yellow galoshes that I wore as the feet.
That's actually really cool.
I loved it.
That's awesome. Danzig?
And you're eating candy on Halloween. I think I've almost always done the homemade costume. Last year I was Quato, and the year before
You
that I was
were-
Data. I was Cohagen.
You were Cohagen,
Quato
let's be
was Data.
honest.
And Data, that was a lot of fun with the Goonies, with all the stuff coming off.
Yep.
But I think I've told you guys in the previous Halloween segment, there are 2 instances when I was a kid. Those were obscure, what I just said. But when I was
Right.
a kid, I went way too obscure. And not only was I obscure, but I didn't even have the right components to make it what the obscure thing was. I just wanted something to be similar.
Right.
So I think the first one was Captain Power.
Love
Captain
it.
Power and the Future something. What was it? The whole title of that show.
It's right
I
there.
don't know.
Not the Planeteers. It was like Captain Power and
No,
the
no, no.
Future.
Captain N
and the Planet. No, Captain
Captain-
Planet and the
Planet.
Planeteers.
Captain Planet.
Captain and the Game
Captain
Master.
and the Game Master, which is one
but
of my
anyway, so
favorite
I was
cartoons.
Captain Power, and he had the badass like gold, like metal,
Yeah.
like basically Master Chief. Essentially, he's Master Chief's
yeah,
costume. I had a motorcycle helmet, a plastic kid's motorcycle helmet, and a jacket like this one.
So
And then I would ring on the door, and they go, "Oh, what are you, a motorcycle driver?" No. Captain Planet. Captain Power.
And then they're like, really?
And the following year, I was obsessed with Akira. Obsessed with.
Oh,
My
right.
first Japanimation, as we called it then.
Yep.
Still calls me Kanata. Kanata!
Yeah.
And then I have to
No,
say Tetsuo!
Kaneda.
I know,
because
but-
you are Kanada.
The joke
Kaneda,
part of it.
Kanada, Parada.
But Kaneda was my favorite dude. He had a badass red leather thing.
Yeah,
Did
yeah,
not
yeah.
have that. I wore a denim jacket, basically like this, and I spray painted on the back a pill, which was like which was on the back of his
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
That was it. That was me as Kaneda. A denim jacket with a spray painted. Show the picture of Kaneda, and now imagine what I was doing. Nothing like that.
Amazing.
But in my brain, it was that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
That's why I direct.
My
Instead of costume design.
Yeah, I did a lot of that same stuff where I would like build stuff, but I remember if I had to pick one, it was a little bit like your story. I was a huge Muppets fan. Huge Muppets fan. And not only that, I was a huge Animal fan. Huge Animal fan.
You're a good drummer too.
Well, and that was one of the reasons why I actually became a drummer was because of Animal from the Muppets. And so one year, I figured out that I could get I could get clothes that kind of looked like shorts, and you know what I mean, that looked like Animal.
Kind of look like shorts?
But yeah, they
You just
kind of
buy
look like shorts. Well, I had to make them. But then I was like, how do I get my head to look like Animal? Like I want to look like Animal. My mom
Your mom.
made a mask out of felt
Wow.
and yarn that looked exactly
cool.
like Animal. It
That's
was like,
cool.
and I put it on.
Epic.
And I felt like Animal. I looked in the mirror. I looked like Animal.
That's
and
so
my mom, like, literally, she was like, "I guess I'll just try to make one of these because they don't exist."
Wow.
It was
That's cool,
amazing.
dude.
I still have the mask. It's back in our house in Virginia. Best Halloween costume, bar none, that I've ever had. Epic.
Amazing.
Captain Power and the Soldiers of the Future.
Beautiful.
Yeah, well done.
Well, thank you, Jonathan. If you'd like to send us an email, please feel free to do so, fans at totallyradshow.com. And before we finish up, I did want to say, if you haven't had a chance to check out iFanboy, if you watch this show, you probably are into comics.
Yeah.
If you're into comics, these guys know comics inside and out.
They're experts where we're dabblers
Websperts.
and
We're websperts.
enthusiasts.
Yes.
These guys really know their stuff. And their show is really fun and entertaining.
Yeah. And they
Not
get a
only that,
lot of huge people on that show.
They get great guests. They had Brian Bendis on recently. That episode was awesome. They had Robert Kirkman on. They were
Yeah.
debating.
So check it out, ifanboy.com or revision3.com/ifanboy.
Yep. He mentioned fans at totallyradshow.com. That's where you would send us a background like Justin did. You can give us a digital background, or look at this, photography as a background. How cool is that?
Yeah.
You can get our logo if you want to go the digital route from totallyradshow.com. It's also where you can download this background if you want it for your very own.
Correctamundo.
Go to our website and click on discussion forums and talk about your favorite Halloween costumes. Pictures are always great this time of year to see what kind of costume you're doing. Also, I wanted to mention that we have been nominated for a podcast award.
Wow! We've been
Actually-
nominated for 2!
So they
in on
are
that?
open
All
to voting. So you've heard me talk a lot about voting for the U.S. National election.
But now we
here's
say
one
screw
that
that.
you really
This is really important.
This is great practice because 1 week from today, 1 week from the day this comes out, is our United States national election.
Wow,
so you can
so
get
fast.
some practice voting and feel how good it feels to vote by going to the Podcast Awards and voting for maybe us if you like our show.
Yeah, and feel
Just
like
say no
if you
to-
guys want to vote for Dick Nation, whatever, it's in there too.
Well, what's up against this show? You know that, right?
Yeah, so just vote for both. What? It's
Just
like
say no
Sweden.
to Proposition every other show that's on the ballot
Proposition
with us.
every other show.
Proposition every other show.
I hate Proposition H25.
There's also another contest, right, that we want to remind people about.
Yes, Little Big Planet got pushed,
Yep.
but it is now theoretically going to be out today.
Yeah.
Theoretically, we don't know what kind of
We don't know
Catholic
what other
stuff
kind of,
is in there.
Yeah,
That's
other kind
gonna
of
have to
religion may
pull.
be offending.
Yeah. But we want you guys to make Little Big Planet levels, TRS-themed levels. We're not quite sure how the functionality of finding them is going to go.
Well, I think we determined that you want to put TRS in the title of the level.
Yeah.
And then it always helps to send us an email at fans@totallyradshow and give us a heads up as to the fact that you made it so we know to look for it.
Bitty, 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 bing.
And winner of the contest, is there a winner?
We're going to play it live on the
That's
show.
right, on the show. We're
Love
going to
it.
play your level live on the
Yeah.
show.
Love it. And what about the movies?
Also, also over at the website, totallyradshow.com, is the movie we're going to review ahead of time. But I will just tell you right now, it's Synecdoche, New York. And possibly, if it doesn't come out, I think it might be JCVD.
All right.
Oh.
Possibly.
But that may come out later, but see it when it comes out
Yeah.
regardless. And you can find us talking about that movie next week at noon Tuesday.
Yes, very
Pacific.
good.
Noon
Daylight
Pacific.
time.
Yes.
Well, that is it. Oh, before we go, if you do want some totally rad swag, head over to jinx.com/TRS. And we love those Jinx guys. Not only do they have TRS stuff, but I believe this is where Captain Hammer gets all his equipment.
What are you talking about? I made it myself.
All right. Well, that's it for this week's edition of the Totally Rad Show. I'm Marty McFly.
I'm Captain Hammer.
And I'm Anton Chigurh.
Happy Halloween!
Words.
Rad rum. Rad rum. Rad rum. Rad rum.
Stop it.
Thanks, bro. Rad rum. It makes every party better. Assembly line of pumpkins. Assembly line of pumpkins.
I do the
Pumpkins.
eye. I do the eye.
Stick it in the mouth. Stick it in the mouth.
Well, that just sounds like porno.
That's just right there.